Wonderful. Thank you very much, Abby, and the rest of my EIT food colleagues for having us here today. Thanks to all that are joining. I'm seeing a lot of beeping and people still joining. So just, as Abby said, this session is recorded where you can go and get the recording in case you have missed anything. But really, really nice to meet you all, even though I can't see you all. Thank you for joining. This is indeed the Impact Funding Framework webinar on data impact systems, which I lead as the director and joined by my colleague Nicola Organ, who's online. So what we're going to talk about today is how data impact systems is working inside EIT Food and what that can mean for your EIT Food proposals. To do so, we're going to give you a bit of context and background. I will move quickly through that because it's really important today that we focus on what's important for you to know for IFF and ensure we have time for questions. The basis of what we're talking about today is the fact that we want to incorporate the power of data as a service. At EIT Food, we believe that data-driven food systems are capable of meaningful and transformative impact. So this is about how we utilize that data and how we bring it in a robust and credible way. The food system in UK and Europe is worth a heck of a lot of part of our economy. I think we're all aware of the facts and the scientific literature around the impact that the food system has in global GHG, for example. But what we really want to drive here, the importance of, is that data underlines much of what we're doing, not just for impact measurement, but also for supply chain management. In 2023, the European Commission did a study, and it was detected that 50% of environmental claims related to the poor performance of food products are misleading or even worse, unsubstantiated. Therefore, Data Impact Systems is here to bring food product assessment and certification to not just the EIT food community, but also much, much wider, the whole food system, in a way that is credible, robust, and really importantly, third-party verified. This comes from a focus and the challenge that the legal and regulatory landscape has significantly changed and grown and broadened over, I would say, the last 10 to 15 years. So starting with something like the Circular Economy Action Plan, which I actually worked on as an expert for the European Commission many years ago, and the initial kind of aims and objectives that Circular Economy Action Plan had, which led into things around like Sustainable Product Initiative, digital passports, going on and on and on, till we get to product environmental footprints for product level assessments, the right to empower consumers to have credible information, but also industry requirements around CSRD, ESG, etc. And then in March 23, this Green Claims Directive, which is really, really relevant for this product level assessment. So there is a compliance driver here and a compliance motive. And I'll go more into that as I continue, but I want to share that that is a challenge that we're trying to face. At EIT Food, we're looking at digitizing trust and sustainability inside the food system. Both are very, very complex concepts. Trust and sustainability alone is to break it down, but we're doing this across consumer engagement and demand, the sustainability, as I said, legal requirements and compliance requirements, but also bringing in ambition of food companies to integrate sustainability into what they do and offer, as well as the tech and digital era challenges. There's an enormous amount of information out there around this. So on the right of the screen, you'll see all these different things about industry reporting and what food companies, retailers, etc., need to actually meet as far as reporting standards, reporting requirements. But there's also a lot of scientific literature around what's needed to convert product level assessment into something that's functional, meaningful, and trustworthy. EIT Foods Consumer Observatory did a study on eco-labeling at the end of 23 as well, and you can check that out and download it from the Consumer Observatory site. The benefits of a power-driven data food system are immense. I'm not going to go too much time into this today. You will get these slides, so you can take your time through them. But this is identified not only through live testing where we have experience from different market test beds examples, and I'll talk about those in a moment, but also understanding how the food system works with other systems, for example, the financial sector. So being able to credibly communicate impact is also related to de-risking, building resilience, future-proofing, and really, really excitingly driving innovation for improvement in the food system, particularly at food product level. At the moment, the scene out there on how do I go about footprinting and labeling is incredibly confusing, both for consumers and industry players alike. Also, consultancies that provide the services on providing footprinting. It's very fragmented, it's very chaotic, there's a lot of lack of trust in the system. And so what we have worked to bring to EIT Food is a trusted, credible system. Now, before EIT Food, Nicola and I were the last 5 years leading an organization called Foundation Earth that you see here in this column. Foundation Earth was a strategic partner of EIT Food, and through EIT Food support with not only the EIT Foods partial funding, but some ecosystem actors, but also very much the stakeholders that we grew at Foundation Earth, which was an independent non-for-profit. We delivered a framework in consultation with hundreds and hundreds of stakeholders, industry partners, NGOs, policymakers. We built a framework for being able to carry out credible, evidence-based product-level assessments for food products. This was an entire framework that is open source, and anyone can have access to it. And it was tested over the entire food system, hundreds of different food products and all the types of categories. And in some cases, we actually went to label on pack on supermarket shelves. That framework has been continually developed and improved, and I'll get to that in a moment. But just to give you an idea of some of the ecosystem partners that we worked with at Foundation Earth, some of them overlapped with EIT Food, and this has now grown, of course, to include both that ecosystem we had at Foundation Earth and that at EIT Food, and we've fused and merged those together. But these are some of the actors that were involved across not only industry level actors, but also what we consider strategic partners on the academic side, the policymaking side, the tech side, and of course, the service providers that are intermediaries in the whole process. We were able to detect at Foundation Earth a significant amount of benefit to credible, harmonized, and standardized environmental impact scoring. On your screen, you'll see some of those benefits that we were detected with real companies, real products, which is testing this hypothesis is that we need a standard. We need it to be credible. We need it to be trustworthy, not just for consumers when they're buying, but also in the whole supply chain. Any kind of procurement that's happening in the supply chain, there needs to be trust. Transparency is an interesting concept where data confidentiality is crucial, right? So this is part of the process and the framework where data credibility is not undermined by transparency, meaning there's confidentiality built in, but we were able to detect enhanced supply chain collaboration because of the fact that people were working on an open source, credible, independently verified framework. Really, really excitingly, what it allowed for is this top thing was continuous improvement of sustainable performance, where you were able to benchmark on a level playing field and believe and trust that benchmark results compared to competitors. Now at EIT Food, the Data Impact Systems Unit, which is what I'm leading and directing, is here to bring this to you in a way that is facilitating uptake, facilitating scale, and works with you in a very collaborative way to ensure that we continue learning and we continue improving. The timeline has looked a bit like this. So Foundation Earth in 2021 was established to drive this credible framework, convene the stakeholders across all these types of actors, meet the needs of things like the Green Claims Directive. In 2023, at the same time that the Green Claims Directive was published, we also published that open source framework, which is a life cycle assessment method for product environmental footprinting, which is very, very clearly set out in this Green Claims Directive. So the requirements of the Green Claims Directive are entirely met by this framework. That's really, really important for you all to know. It also is compliant with UK Green Code requirements. A lot of international actors are looking at Europe and this and the way that we have set up our legislation because they want to be able to export to Europe and the UK. And so they also are using the framework. In August of 2024, Foundation Earth was acquired by EIT Food, and we've been now fully integrated. And now we are here to serve, to improve this framework through an international data alliance, which we are in the process of establishing now in 2025. There are continual challenges to ensuring a harmonized life cycle assessment-based eco-labeling scheme. And we will continue to work on that through the Data Alliance and the different programs that EIT Food has to offer. Ooh, I was muted somehow. back on. There are significant challenges to continuing to make sure that this framework is available at scale. And that's not just around data collection, but it's also a tech issue. And we are working across all that through the Data Alliance. But the good news is that scientific method is internationally recognized by actors like the OECD, the European Commission, as the leading public serving initiative. One of the reasons is because it has convened hundreds of stakeholders to build it, but also because it's open source and free to use for anyone. Let me just keep going here. At EIT Food, we are focusing the work of our data impact systems across bringing you credible framework for product accounting standards. We have that already available to you on B2C. We are currently piloting a B2B standard method. We're working at farm level data collection assessment standard methods and working with different actors on that. Also, we're continuing to improve insurance mechanisms and really, really excitingly using the Consumer Observatory for consumer testing. I've already mentioned around the need for international standards. We working inside with US partners, with those that are submitting proposals to the IFF, we can continue looking at all these things that need further work, further market testing, further feedback, not only for us, but also we can capture and bring that feedback to the European Commission and DEFRA in the UK, which is a really, really exciting role for EIT Food to bridge that gap between market and policy. The proposal that we have to you for the IFF is to look at these big blocks of area of work that the framework can work towards. So there's scientific development, using industry as a market testbed to understand how well the framework works and is applied. There are different environmental indicators that are measured and used for data collection. So by aligning proposals to that, we're able to continue testing and provide that feedback and policy insights to the policymakers. I mentioned the consumer engagement side. There are several EIT Food members and partners in our ecosystem that are really, really excited to test how well the label and different ways of interpreting label can be used by consumers. There's a tremendous amount of work on the data and tech side around data collection, barriers, the tools for data capturing and analysis. And really importantly, we'll also be working on the work that we're looking for proposals that also look at what education and skills are needed, meaning there's a tremendous amount of capacity building that needs to happen. So I've detailed this on this slide, which doesn't seem to be coming up for some reason. So let me skip now to the really, really key and important point before I stop for questions and answers. As part of your proposal, we would encourage you to take a look at the framework if you go to this landing page, which Nicola is going to drop in the chat right now, there is a landing page on EIT Food website where you can take a look at the framework for B2C product level assessments. You can download it, you can digest it, you can get in touch to ask questions about it. There are many LCA service providers, life cycle assessment service providers out there that have been working with us now for many years that we can also connect with so that you can understand how they work and how they can engage in project proposals to bring that expertise that's needed to carry out the life cycle assessment of products. We will be having a training session in March. The date, take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. We're trying to finalize that date, but we will communicate through Hive and through all the other communication channels that we have to have a specific training session on the actual framework and how it works. But for the moment, I encourage you to go to this landing page and take a look and see if you have really, really important questions. To summarize the process, right, of if you would like to have an EIT Food certified product because you want to go through the process and you want to apply the framework, that's great. What it looks like today is that you go to that landing page, you take a look at the method, you ask questions if you need to. There's a life cycle assessment requirements that are needed to review and understand the resource required for collecting data and for engaging a LCA service provider, which is here in step 2. As I said, we can recommend trusted suppliers that we've worked with in the past and know the method really well. There is a service provider verification check that we provide to bring that extra quality assurance to you and to the whole process. You go through, you incorporate the life cycle assessment, product assessment into your work. To get that independently verified by EIT Food, we would sign an NDA to make sure you're comfortable with all data confidentiality. And we provide that verification check, quality assurance checks. And as a final step, we would issue and provide an official certification of EIT Food certified product level assessment. And in the case that you're interested, the label and grade that you can put online or on pack. That's a very, very summarized step. These steps are on that landing page that you've been provided the link for. But I'll pause now and allow people to ask some questions. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can see you guys all.
Thank you, Cleona.
Please, Abby. Yeah,
so we've had a few questions in the chat, which Nicola has kindly been responding to. But you might want to maybe share a bit more detail. There was a few questions on how this aligns with the European Commission's PEF, excuse me, rules, etc. PFCR, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you could just talk a little bit about how this aligns with European policy,
absolutely,
etc., that'd be great.
So the framework, when I talk about the framework, it has been developed on product environmental footprint, so PEF, of the European Commission. We like to call it PEF friendly. For those of you that are experts in this area, the product environmental footprint of the European Commission is not that market friendly. There are gaps in it, particularly for application. So the framework that we are offering you as a free tool is a method that it can be applied today to product level assessments and gives and fills those gaps with very clear and specific instructions. It brings in the PEFCR, our product environmental footprint category rules, and that applies for the different food categories that exist. So grains, meats, sweets, dairy, veg, etc. Those different food categories. There are different category rules. We have incorporated those into the framework when and if they're available. They are not complete. They are in continual scientific improvement. Nicola has just thrown this in the chat. Nicola and I are members of the technical working groups of the European Commission where this kind of stuff is debated and worked on across the leading scientists in Europe, and we are part of that group. So we have a very, very close and intimate relationship on this. And as that stuff evolves, because quite frankly, what we know today about deforestation, biodiversity, and how to measure it well, we didn't know 2 years ago. When I say we, I mean everyone in the space, including the European Commission. The science on this is constantly improving. Therefore, the metrics and the indicators and how to measure them is constantly improving. So part of the data lines work is we ensure that we bring that in and integrate it, feed it into our sessions, but we do it not in a bubble. We do it with industry players, retailers, academics and researchers, and the policymakers. So our aim here is to have a framework that is completely commercially viable for application. So dare I say it's an improvement on PEF. Now I see someone's got their hand up, Abby. I don't know who it is.
Yep, I think it's Jenny Yan. I think you can unmute yourself. If you can't, let me know and I'll see if I can do it for you. Yes, here we go.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I was the one asking the question about the alignment of the PEF.
Okay.
But I'm also wondering about the alignment with the organizational environmental footprinting standard, because what I see a lot is that, due to these regulations that are coming up to these organizations, they're now starting to footprint their operations. They often do it only on climate change, but they're open to really get into those other indicators aligned with the organizational environmental footprinting standard. But I see, there's some discrepancy between the OEF, organizational environmental footprinting standard, and the PEF standard, whereas they should be, more or less conceptually be integrated. Is that a role that you foresee a startup taking a role in? And is it also something that under this application and the EIT Food Impact Funding Framework, a startup can work on and develop software for?
So great question, Jonah. Thank you very much for your question. Let me, if I dare, am I quick enough? I don't think I am. Slide, and again, we'll share these slides after, but very quickly, yes, this is a role, number one, that the Data Alliance will, as an umbrella platform, right? So EIT Food leading the Data Alliance as a coordinator, where our intention as part of the Data Alliance is to have this industry market testbed. Part of that market testbed is to bring solutions to the challenges. So the short answer is yes. We said anyone can have a role on working on this. What we will do as EIT Food is learn from the projects that are supporting this kind of development and contributing to the improvement of this development, bring those learnings. If they're aligned with the framework, we can very, very proactively bring those learnings into the discussions that are happening at the European Commission level. The Green Great Claims Directive, as it stands today, is on product level assessments. I'm sure you know this, right? And it's environmental impact only. That's something else that I should have really highlighted. It is not including social impacts or health, nutrition weighting. This is environmental impact for product level assessments. That's what the Green Claims Directive is asking for. So our framework is answering that requirement. The role of the Data Alliance would be, okay, what other market testing do we need to ensure, one, that it continually improves, right, and it's working well. Two, what else needs to be considered? So, for example, the challenge that you brought up and highlighted for everyone, which is where and how much overlap is there between organizational footprinting and product level footprinting, is a very, very reasonable and effective question of where does that work? There are other compliance issues for organizational reporting, and I'm sure you know that. But what the gap is and what the overlap is between the two could be a very interesting focus, yes. I will say that our overall intention of the Data Alliance is to be able to connect practice to product and everything in between on that value chain. Why? Because not our personal opinions here, but the scientific consensus after convening hundreds of scientists over the last 5 years is that we need a framework that works across the whole value chain. If we ever want to understand what practice level activity does to product level performance. And vice versa, right? We want to take a product and be able to track back and say, why is this product less environmentally friendly than the other one or more? What was done at farm level? So our intention is to connect that. I very briefly mentioned that we are working on a B2B method and the farm level data challenges, but the connection between that includes organizational environmental footprint. At the moment, the tool that's ready to go is the product level assessment. So we are very specific today, guys, on saying, if you want to do product level assessments, impact measurement, definitely if you want to make any claims that are substantiated and credible, this is an offer that EIT Food can bring. It is not obligatory. It's not mandatory in any way, shape, or form. It's there for you to use as a public service, right? We're very proud of the fact that EIT Food saw this as something that's so important to bring it to offer, and we will continue to working in that way. So we're really, really excited and positive about what this community has to offer and bring. You guys have a tremendous amount of expertise. And if you're able to work with this framework in a line, then we're really looking forward to how we can pull out learnings, capture learnings for continuous improvement. But thanks for the question. I've seen you ask some other questions, Jona, and all really good questions. I think Nicholas answered most of them.
Most of them are answered, I think. So
okay.
Just one small thing, we can keep it short, but if we already want to work in the supply chain and work at the B2B level, eventually enabling a B2C label to be created, is it too early to already work on technology that can facilitate the footprinting, or should we wait, for example, for the B2B method to be finalized, or can we already create proof pilots and test software systems that will eventually be able to facilitate the B2B method?
Yeah, no, I do not think it's too early at all. I think this stuff takes time. The B2C, let me be very clear, B2C is absolutely ready to go. You can use the framework, you can do life cycle assessments, you can get certified by EIT Food, and you can get a label and a grade to put online or on pack. So B2C is absolutely waiting for you guys to use it. And that landing page is about that. On the B2B, to give more information, we finished phase 1. So we have a prototype method ready to go. And we've done limited testing. What we would really like to do is more testing. In phase 2, we want to bring in different B2B actors, because B2B products are very difficult to classify. It's not as simple as a B2C product, right? There's ingredients, functional ingredients, commodities. They're different. They have different life cycle stages. They have different ways that they work in the value chain. So we have a prototype, and in phase 2, we would like to allow others to use it to test. So I think for the tech, yes, absolutely. And if there's interest on B2B particular, then please do get in touch with us, because we can share what we know thus far.
Yeah, so it's already possible to use the methodology as is created in phase 1 to really help in phase 2, for example, under this funding mechanism.
The B2B we have not publicly published yet. So the idea is absolutely the same, is to go open source and have it as a public tool. At the moment, it hasn't, because we feel it's very much prototype. It has been developed to be synergistic as possible with the B2C, right? So that you can have some level of comparison and understanding. We have some elements that we really would like to do the further testing on before we publish it open source. But if you have really specific interest in this, then we would love to speak to you. Please get in touch. We can set up a meeting, and we can look at how that prototype could be used. Because again, we're doing all this for a public service. We're not doing this for IP. We're doing this for people to use it and test it. And that phase 2 of testing for the B2B, the more knowledge we get thrown at it, the better.
Okay, thank you very much.
By the way, if people don't understand, the B2B method is extremely pioneering. There is no other LCA lifecycle assessment B2B that exists out there in the way that we're doing it. So it is very new stuff. Thanks, Jona.
Do we have any more questions? I think that's most of the questions in the chat. Cleona, did you finish all of your slides? Do we need to go back to any slides? Oh, there's a hand up. There we go.
Go on.
Hello. I have a little question regarding the funding. I was looking at the website and it says if you have an idea, we're ready to fund it, something like that. So I was just trying to be sure if we are eligible to get the fund. And I haven't seen anyone asking like the question that I will ask. So the question is that we are in OIZ, an organized industrial zone, which allocates parcels from the area of their own. And what we're doing is that we are enabling farming. So with the area that we're giving to our investors, they will be doing farming and some agricultural practices. And right now we are aiming to establish an agricultural excellence center. And I was wondering if we are eligible for this funding program. Our project is right now funded by the World Bank, mostly funded by the World Bank, and we're right now at the infrastructure phase of the project. And at the end of this year, we will be handing the parcels to our investors. And then the rest of the area, which is aimed to establish as the Agricultural Excellence Center, we're trying to find a fund so we can go on with the green OIZ concept and manage our project within the sustainable approach. Do you think we are eligible? If we are, then we will be applying for this project.
Thank you, Zeynep. It's a good question. It's actually very hard for me to answer just from how your explanation. What I would say is, if you read the call guidance, it's very clear in there in one, the eligibility criteria, and secondly, how projects and programs are evaluated. So, you know, as part of EIT rules, we have to be very transparent and clear about what we're looking for and how we will evaluate and assess things. So make sure I will look for the links and pop them in the chat, but do read those criteria. As long as you're, you know, meeting all of those and you're within a Horizon Europe country, then you can be funded. I'll pop those in the chat so you've got the links to all the core documents. And there's lots of FAQs, and I'll say this to everyone, on the website we have lots of FAQ documents, recorded webinars. Do also, Cleona mentioned it earlier, Food Hive, that's a great source of information, and you can also matchmaking consortia build on there, so do have a look there.
Thank you so much. I'll be waiting for the link.
Okay. Any more questions?
So,
Cleona, you've got to go back to the slides.
Yeah, if there's no more hands up, I'll just share. I wanted to share this visual, the B2C label, that if you go all the way through the process of the framework and certification and actually put labels on, this is what they look like now. This is an EIT food certification and label. Just to give everyone a visualization. As I said, we are working on a whole value chain concept and systemic vision. At the moment, it's at this B2C level, and we're working on that B2B, but also really looking and considering how farm level assessments and farm level standards can be involved. Just to give some ideas and maybe stimulate some thought for proposals, right, for IFF. Some of those challenges, I mean, Johan mentioned several already, but these are some of the things that I'm sure any of you who know anything about life cycle assessment have come across. There are challenges across each of these areas and many, many, many more, but just to give some ideas of things that I've shared and put them on the screen for you. We are working in a framework. We have actually gone through, and Abby, this is my last point, and I see some questions, so I'll just make this last point. The whole framework has gone through a review and update with the European Commission, the UK government, plus direct industry engagement, NGO engagement, etc., to actually work on an improved and updated framework. And we're trying to tackle some of these issues, but market testing is needed, right? So that's where we really see the excitement of proposals that can come into IFF, and how we could work with you. Reinforce, it is not obligatory to use the framework. We are just happily encouraging you, because this is where the focus of data impact systems and the EIT Food International Data Alliance will go. Abby, hands up?
Yes, thanks, Cleona. I've just popped some links in the chat for everybody that's asking. I know Cleona said, obviously, this is not mandatory. I think the thing to remember with any EIT food proposal is that EIT food is formally an institutionalized European partnership. So everything we need to do needs to be in line with current European regulation and frameworks. So something like this, the Data Impact Alliance is very much already in line with delivering EU policy, which is why we recommend you look at this, because it's in line with what we are trying to do. Erica, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the nice presentation, Cleona. We met in Rome and during the EIT Food event in October. And so in case of, as you were saying, the scientific knowledge and methodologies and technologies always improving and then increasing over time. So in case, for example, of collaboration with the Alliance for the development and the test of new standards or new methodologies that can improve your actual framework. Does the Alliance can serve as a sort of third-party certification to certify and validate that new methodology, that new or not?
Good question, Erica. So I fear that I haven't been clear enough. So let me try to be very, very clear. EIT Food, not the data lines. EIT Food, if you use this framework, we are able to provide third-party verification, which is one of the steps, and certification. So verification means you work with a life cycle assessment. Service provider, you give them your data on the product, right, that is required to do the life cycle assessment. They would then have to turn in, and you'll see this on that landing page. I don't know, Nicola, if you just want to pop it in again so it's reinforced. These steps are actually there. To get verified by EIT Food, you have to submit XYZ to Data Impact Systems. That XYZ is the minimal that we would bring quality assurance. And as Abby was saying, this is in line with European requirements. Okay, the Green Claims Directive calls for third-party verification. We have already developed that protocol inside that framework. So yes, Erica, we can do that framework, that verification. And then, if required, give you the formal certificate of this is where your impact sits across those product environmental footprint 16 indicators, and issue a label as well for you to use the label on the food product. I will also reinforce, for any labels that go on food products, after going through this framework, an extra added bonus is that they can be included at no cost in your IFF proposal by actors inside the Consumer Observatory who are doing consumer testing of those labels, right? So there will be consumer testing happening around how do consumers interpret these labels? Do they mean anything? Do they understand what they're trying to say? And do they like them, right? Can they, what do they interpret? So all that consumer testing will happen on anything that goes through this process. But yes, to be very clear, EIT Food can verify and certify. If you use the framework and follow the steps, I'm sure once people get into the framework, download the method, there are questions. So what exactly do we have to submit to get certified? And we can answer those questions individually, but we really encourage you to go to that landing page and check it out to get familiar with it and then formulate your questions and send them in. There's an email address at the end of that landing page that you can use to ask questions.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. And just to reiterate the European regulatory framework, obviously this is a webinar on product impact assessment. And if you are thinking about submitting a proposal that is bringing a product to market, then make sure in your application that you really emphasize how you will bring that to market. Does it fit within existing regulation? And if it doesn't, what do you propose to do to overcome that or change that regulation? So it's really important with all of proposals that we want to see applied outcomes of a project. So this isn't early stage R&D. This is about getting innovation to market and tested, which is why a framework like this, which is already set up for you, can be very beneficial, I would say.
That's a great point, Abby. And I think just to add that, you do need to be aware and informed on green claims. So you're not allowed to go willy-nilly claiming this has less GHG, this is climate friendly, this is carbon neutral. Those are what are considered unsubstantiated green claims, unless you have a very credible scientific-based evidence behind it, right? So that's really important on that meeting those requirements.
Yeah, and you know, supporting evidence against anything you put in an application always scores much higher, because you know the expert evaluators are looking for that backup information to support what you are stating. So any supporting evidence you can put in an application is very beneficial. I think there was another question about eligibility for an organisation applying. On that, what I would say is, if you are going to apply for funding, you have to have what's called a PIC number. To get a PIC number, and again, I'll put the link in the chat, you have to go onto the Eurocommission open tender portal. It's a very simple process, but all the eligibility criteria around the type of organisation will be kind of processed through that. But you must have a PIC number to be able to apply for funding, and you must do that well in advance. Don't leave it till the last minute. In fact, don't leave anything till the last minute is my top tip, in case there are any tech issues. You can download offline application templates to work on. Everything is now on Salesforce. So do make sure you familiarize yourself with the questions, with the evaluation criteria that show, you know, how will your application be tested. But yeah, for the eligibility general organization question, I'll stick the link in the chat for the tender portal where you need to get your PIC number. Oh, there you go. Connie's done it for me. Thank you, Connie. Any more questions? I did notice a question, Cleona, that was not about food products. Do you have a recommendation if someone is thinking about, for example, I think the example was fertilizer, any other types of LCA methodology or recommendations of where to look?
There's probably an LCA methodology, a life cycle methodology for anything and everything under the sun. Someone's offered some kind of methodology, right? So the specific one I would recommend on fertilizers, no, I daren't say, to be honest. There are lots of offers out there. This is precisely why we've pulled this framework together to convene and harmonize, but to also bring credibility to it. The question is a very valid one, meaning there's a lot. If we define the word product, if we start there, it gets confusing, right? So that's why we're trying to be very clear. This is B2C product level assessment, and we're working on that B2B. So no, I can't recommend anything specific for fertilizers. And you hear the pain in my voice, because I do understand it's confusing and hard to get your head around what all the different versions of art are. However, I think what Abby was saying around, if you want to understand the impact of your fertilizer, the most important message is to choose something where you can be able to substantiate how you're measuring the metrics, right? What references you're using to measure the metrics. And it does require investigation at literature level, scientific literature level, and ideally then case studies, and asking consultancies. Right, I would go around consultancies, life cycle assessment consultancies, and I would ask them, have you done fertilizer life cycle assessment? What method have you used? How do you substantiate that method? That's where I would start personally. In the fullness of time, I would really like to believe that the data lines, these are the kind of questions we will tackle, meaning we've started at one end of the value chain with B2C products, and we're working to have one coherent scientific system across. So in the fullness of times, we will be able to tackle and provide an open source framework for something like fertilizers. But that is exactly why we're here today, is to get you guys helping us work on this stuff so we can get there quicker with all the intelligence that is inside this EIT food ecosystem to help us bring. So if there was a good project on fertilizer impact assessment and you were able to show and define a good impact measurement system, we'd be happy to receive it as a proposal, and no guarantees, of course, ever on how things are evaluated. I think that Abby's mentioned all the real core requirements, not just eligibility, but novelty and market innovations, etc., that are important. But please, we'd love to see what you guys can come up with.
Excellent, thank you. I think we've only got a few minutes left. Obviously, the questions on anything on impact funding framework, either check out the FAQ first or do message the missions mailbox. But I will reiterate, Food Hive is a great source of information, and we try to regularly put stuff in there that is kind of a social collaborative platform. So, you know, you can put out requests to build your consortia, you can ask for special expertise, or vice versa. You can say, hey, I'm interested in joining a project. This is my expertise. I'd love to work on X, Y, and Z. It's there for you to communicate with each other on collaborative ideas in the community. We will make sure this recording is uploaded so you can watch it again. We will also add a copy of the slides so you can look at the detail in your own time, but do have a look at that website, the Data Impact Systems web page, I should say, sorry, that Nicola has posted. It's got loads of useful information in there. If there are no more questions, I'll just wait a few more seconds to see if anyone wants to pop their hand up. No, any final points from you, Cleona or Nicola, I suppose, before we wrap up? No? Excellent. Well, I'll just finish by saying thank you so much for your time. Really looking forward to seeing some exciting proposals come in, and look out for more updates soon. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.